Alright, so today I want to show you my 10 favorite snakes here in my collection. As a matter of fact, I just went through and I did a quick head count on all my snakes. It looks like I actually have 88 snakes here in my reptile room. It's quite a few snakes to actually take care of. And a lot of those, I'd say I have probably close to about 40 that are hatchlings from last year that I'm selling on Morphmarket. I actually have about 7 of them that I'm just waiting on warmer weather to ship out. But I just want to kind of go through and show you my 10 favorite snakes. And pretty much my #1 snake out of all my snakes, obviously, is this snake around my neck. This is Bobby, my bamboo ball python. And I would say as far as ball pythons, the bamboo is probably one of my favorite as far as just a standalone morph. It looks really awesome. It's also in the blue-eyed leucistic, so if you breed 2 of them together, you get an all-white snake with blue eyes. And the other thing that I really like about bamboos is for some reason it seems like they're a little bit easier to feed than most ball pythons. Some can be extremely picky, and I would say the bamboos are a little bit more feisty when it comes to feeding. And I would say, you know, they tame down really easy. It's not really a problem. You know, with some morphs, you can have some that are naturally aggressive depending on the morph. And I say that's not really the case for bamboo, although their appetite is really increased based on, you know, comparing them to other snakes. So what I'm gonna do is I want to go through the other 9 ball pythons and I want to show you my favorite snakes in my entire collection. Alright, so here is my #2 favorite snake. I'd say this is pretty much neck to neck with Bobby. Of course, Bobby wins every time, but there's nothing in my collection that even comes close to my #2. This is actually a banana ENCHI clown. Take a look at this beauty. I actually bought this one this year, and look at how big he's getting. He's getting, just in like 6 months, he's gotten really big. I bought him and he was a little bit too small to breed when I first got him. I started pairing him up with a couple of my clown females and hoping he would actually eat enough and gain some weight, and he's definitely breeding size now. Hopefully I'll actually go with my 2 females. Hopefully one or both of those females will actually lay eggs. But if you take a look at this guy, his head is just, it doesn't even look real. It almost looks kind of comical. This is a banana ENCHI clown. So the banana is the same as a coral glow, and this guy is actually a male maker because the coral glow parent that this came from was actually a male. So all the coral glow offspring from this one will actually be males, which is kind of interesting. And all the non-coral glows will pretty much be 50-50 because they won't be linked with the coral glow gene and it won't really set the gender. And the other thing that's kind of interesting is it's kind of aging quite a bit for a coral glow, and you can see there's really no spots. You know, most coral glows at this size would have a lot of freckles all through the snake, and sometimes when you mix coral glow with the right combination of other genes, you don't really get the freckles. This is a really beautiful snake, and you're probably wondering how much did I pay for this snake? I actually paid $1,500 for this snake. Quite a big investment. It's my biggest investment of the year as far as my snakes. And some people have actually asked me how much did I pay for Bobby. I actually paid $1,200 for Bobby. Quite a bit for bamboo. And the reason I paid so much for Bobby is because I was looking for a male that was ready to breed, because I just bought a collection of females, and you know, it's kind of limited based on the age, and it was pretty much the most stunning example of a bamboo that I've ever seen, and I needed it right then. I was like, I just had a few weeks to buy it and then breed it. That's how quick it was. So it was almost kind of an impulse buy, you know. I was like, all right, it doesn't really matter what the price is. I want that snake, and that's how I got Bobby. Alright, so for my 3rd favorite snake, this is an awesome snake. Take a look at this beauty. This is actually, I can almost put this one around my neck. This is a really big snake. This is a desert ghost. It has pastel in it, and it has spider in it. It's a really big female. As a matter of fact, I'm breeding this one this year. That's why I really didn't want to move it that much. Kind of put it around my neck. Maybe it'll chill out. But the really cool thing about the desert ghost is it really keeps the color and the contrast as it grows up and matures into adult. Look at how big this girl is. She is a really big snake, really beautiful. And we did an ultrasound just a couple days ago, and it looks like she's developing some eggs, so that'll be pretty awesome. I'm actually breeding my pastel desert ghost male to this one, so all of them will be desert ghosts. and they'll be pastels or super pastels, and this one actually has spider in it. And that's kind of the interesting thing, is some people actually shy away from the spider morph, and let me tell you, when you mix it with the right genes, look how awesome this snake is with the spider. And there's basically no head wobble at all in this snake. And I was kind of wondering if somehow the Desert Ghost would actually maybe possibly cancel out the head wobble in the spiders, because I've never really seen a Desert Ghost spider with a head wobble, and this one has zero head wobble. It is super stable as far as, you know, kind of, you know, the neurological issues with the spider. So it'd be kind of interesting to see how the hatchlings behave when I breed this, and, you know, half the babies will come out with the spider gene. It'd be really awesome if we could figure out a gene that we could mix with spider that would eliminate the head wobble. Alright, so my favorite snake, number 4, would have to be this beauty. Take a look at this. This is actually a pinstripe pied female. It's the pied gene, and it has the pinstripe in it. And you can almost see the gold color from the pinstripe. As a matter of fact, when this snake was smaller, it was really super bright gold. And you can see it faded just a little bit, really darkened out as it matured and got a little bit older. Really beautiful morph. And as a matter of fact, you won't see many of these at all on the internet over on Morphmarket. I looked for quite a long time. I haven't actually looked recently, but I looked for this particular snake for a couple years before I could actually find one. It was a struggle, and I knew I wanted one, and I knew I wanted to add it to my collection. And the funny thing is they were totally sold out. And I can't even remember what I paid for this, but it was like an extra 100 or 200 bucks that I paid for this, because I was waiting for it for such a long time. And when one finally actually popped up on Morphmarket, I was like, yeah, I definitely want that snake. It's really awesome. If you look at the head, this one is, you can tell she's kind of in shed a little bit. Her eyes kind of graying out a little bit. She's a little bit more intense when she's not in shed. I think I woke her up from her nap. She's kind of a little groggy there. Really beautiful snake. I think this is probably one of the best pied combos that you can find, the pinstripe and the pied. Alright, so here is my favorite snake, number 5. That would definitely have to be this beautiful albino pied male. Take a look at that beauty. And the interesting thing is, it seems like a lot of people are going after albino pieds. It's pretty much the #1 thing that you can do with albino. And the cool thing about this guy is, you know, if you kind of look at him, I've been keeping him a little bit skinnier than the females because he's a male. And, you know, if I have extra rodents on feeding day, I'll kind of, you know, prefer to feed them to my females. This is like the perfect weight for a male, and I got him a few years ago as a hatchling. And the interesting thing is, take a look at this little spot right in the middle. It's kind of interesting, his colors. The colors are kind of unpredictable on the pied. Sometimes they can be, you know, really heavily colored, and sometimes they can be just, you know, just a little bit of color and mostly white. And this one I'd say is mostly white. Look at how big this guy is. It's a really big snake, really big and long and lanky. And as a matter of fact, this last year I bred this one to quite a few females. Got some double het albino pieds. I actually had some pinstripe double het albino pieds. And as a matter of fact, I actually bred this to a clown and got my triple hets, my albino pied clowns. Pretty much the ones I'm holding back. I really can't wait to breed those. That's going to be really awesome, because you breed 2 of those normal looking snakes together and you'll pop out all kinds of snakes, including snakes like albino pieds. Really awesome morph. Alright, so this is number 6 as far as my top 10 favorites. This is probably a snake that you probably won't see anywhere else in the world. I've actually only seen a couple of these over on Morphmarket, and let me tell you, you'll find some of these and they won't look like this one. This is actually a bamboo calico, and I've seen some that don't really have the high expression calico like this. Some of them just have a really low expression, and I actually produced one that was even better than this. It was actually a bamboo pastel calico, and it was essentially just like this, except the white colors here were like a bright yellow. It was really awesome, and I was bringing it to the show to show it off, and some guy offered me a lot of money for it. I was like, all right, I can sell it. I'll just make another one. I'm actually breeding this to I think I paired this one with a lemon blast, so I should be able to make some kind of reproduce that one. Hopefully I'll actually make a pastel pinstripe calico no bamboo, which would be really awesome. This is a really awesome snake, and it's not allelic, so you'll get, as a matter of fact, if you breed this to like a normal, you'll actually get some normals and some calicos and some bamboos and some bamboo calicos. So it's not quite as powerful as like a allelic combination, but as far as just the combination of anything with bamboo, I think the calico just really is amazing. It really shines when it almost looks kind of like it has ENCHI or something in it. It's really an awesome combo, and it's let me tell you, it was totally unexpected when I popped this out. I was just really blown away because I've never seen anything quite like this. Alright, so here is my favorite snake, number 7, and this is a clown combo. It's kind of interesting. This is actually a lesser clown female, and look at how big she's getting. For only 2 years old, she is massive. I'm actually breeding her this year. It looks like she might be developing some eggs. It's kind of interesting how fast this one's grown over such a short amount of time. Really big snake. I can't believe how big this one is. And the interesting thing with the lesser clown is, you remember, it's in the blue leucistic complex, so when you're breeding this to other snakes, you kind of want to stay away from like bamboos or Mojaves or anything like that, especially if it has clown in it, because you can get a really high-end clown combo, and essentially it would mask it if you end up with the blue-eyed leucistic, which is the all-white snake with the blue eyes. But the interesting thing about this is, when it was smaller, it was really bright and intense, and as it got older, it really kind of faded out. So I'd say if you're looking for a lesser clown, you know, the hatchlings are really intense, and then as they age, they kind of fade out a little bit. Still really looks awesome. There's a lot of potential that you can do working lesser into the recessive morph clown. Alright, so here is my favorite snake, number 8. Take a look at this one. This is actually a pied, but it has the fire gene in it. And this guy has been fasting for a really long time. These ball pythons, it's kind of funny. Sometimes they'll just fast and fast and they won't eat and won't eat. And then sometimes they'll just go back on food and eat with a vengeance and gain a lot of weight really fast. So you can tell this guy is really super skinny. And it's a male, so it doesn't really matter. As a matter of fact, I actually bought this one from Justin Kobelka. It's from a long time ago, before I even knew who he was. As a matter of fact, I was looking through some of my snakes. I was like, well, who did I buy these from? I didn't even know, you know, some of the big breeders and what they were working on. You know, I was probably one of the only fire pines at the time. I can't even remember what I paid for this one. It was pretty good money, actually. And I actually got some, I bred this to some normals this year and got some fires 100% het pied. Actually, you know, kind of proved out what was in this snake. I was kind of wondering if there's any other genes, and essentially what the fire does is all these dark spots on the pied, it really lightens them a lot, so you have more of a lighter color of the snake and the dark spots when you add the fire. Makes for some really interesting combos. And when it's really small, those little splotches right here of color, they were super bright orange. It was kind of interesting. This one has really changed. It was so impressive when it was a hatchling, and it really faded that orange into this kind of a browned out color. But if I actually produce some hatchlings with this, I'm actually breeding this to my pied female, hoping to get some more fire pieds. And let me tell you, if you see some of those at the show on my table, you'll be blown away at how orange they are. It's a pretty awesome combo. Alright, so this is number 9 for me personally. You probably won't recognize the snake. This was actually one of my hatchlings from a couple years ago. Take a look at this snake. And when I first hatched it out, I thought it was a normal popping its head out of the egg, and then after it came out and I looked at the sides and the belly, look at the belly on that thing, and I was like, what in the world is that? And then the kind of the ridge right down the top of the snake looks really interesting. I just call it my DINKER project. And this was actually produced from breeding my Coral Glow 100% het pied to a normal, and that normal female that I bred it to kind of had like a different kind of a color, almost like a khaki kind of a color, and a reduced pattern. So I'm not sure exactly what was in that snake. Sometimes you can kind of get some weird stuff if you're buying some normals. And sure enough, this, I don't know what this is. Some people have speculated on different genes. I saw mahogany. Someone was selling a mahogany on Morphmarket Morphmarket that looked exactly like this. I don't think this is mahogany. Some people have, you know, looked at the Arroyo and the Rio and said this is kind of similar to that. I'm not sure exactly what this is, but this is one of my more exciting projects. I'm going to breed this back to some other ones probably this fall in about 7 months and see if I can reproduce this, or maybe even produce a super. If I could reproduce this, it'd be pretty awesome. Alright, so for my number 10 most favorite ball python, let me tell you, it was pretty tough. I have a lot of really cool ball pythons, but this has to be my number 10. Look at this snake. This is a pure white snake. I have quite a few white snakes. I have a lesser pied, I have a spider pied white wedding. This one actually happens to be a bamboo lesser, so it has one copy of the bamboo gene, one copy of the lesser gene, and it's kind of an interesting combo. It actually has like a yellow kind of a stripe. You can barely see the yellow stripe right down the top back of the snake, and this is actually an allelic combination. So for example, if you bred this to a normal, you would get 50% bamboos and 50% lessers. You get no normals, which is pretty powerful. And this actually was one of Bobby's babies, so you know the bamboo line on this is really awesome. Hopefully I'll get some really awesome. I'm actually breeding this to 3 normals this year. Hopefully 1 or 2 of those will go. You never know what's going to go when you start breeding your snakes, but it'd be really awesome to actually get lots of bamboos and lessers out of this. I think this last year was kind of hard because it seemed like the odds were against me, and I had so many, I hatched out so many normal ball pythons. So it's kind of an anomaly. I bred, you know, hatched out so many normals, and this will completely eliminate hatching out the normals because it's allelic. Alright, so it is time for the question of the day, and Ben Hillman asks, have I ever crunched the numbers to figure out how much I'm saving breeding my own rodents? And that is a very good question. As a matter of fact, I think it changes depending on what bedding I use and what food I use for the rodents. As a matter of fact, when I first started out, I was using a really inexpensive rodent food. I bought it from the feed store, and I was mixing my own grains, and I had like, I was actually buying like 50-pound bags of grain and corn and all this stuff. And I found out mixing my own food for the rodents, they weren't really looking that hot. A lot of them would get overweight really quick. I don't think it was very good for the rodents. And then I switched to a Missouri 6F food. It's specifically for rodents, for rats and mice. And let me tell you, my rats and mice look so much better since I switched to that food, but it's like $25 for a 50-pound bag versus like if you get a bag of corn, it's like $7 or $8, something like that. You know, it really depends on what you're feeding your rodents. A lot of people actually feed dog food and do pretty well, although I prefer to feed like a professional zoo quality food to my rodents, because you know, that's essentially what you're feeding your snakes. It kind of comes around and goes into your snakes. And the other thing is the bedding, and the bedding, let me tell you, if you have the wrong bedding, you can actually break the bank. I actually started out with shredded paper, which was completely free, except I had to shred all my own paper. And the problem with shredded paper is it only lasts 2 or 3 days, and then you have to replace it, so you're always chasing the bedding. And then I finally went to a pine, and I used the wrong kind of pine. It was actually a dusty, not kiln dried pine, and I was actually throwing out dead rats quite a bit. Found out my pine was toxic, and then I went over to all these other things. I actually went to like Ace Hardware, and I was buying like cedar, well, not cedar, I was buying, it was kind of some kind of a landscaping material. I can't remember what it was. You don't want to use cedar, but there's other landscaping like a bark material or a shredded wood that is rodent safe, and let me tell you, that will break the bank if you're doing that. And then finally I was just totally exasperated, and I went down to a pet store down in Denver, and in the back of the pet store they actually raised rodents, and I asked the guy, hey, where do you get your bedding? And he turned me onto this place where I can, you know, get really inexpensive, the kiln dried, dust free pine bedding, and ever since then I'm coming out ahead on my rodents. So the rodents are kind of tricky because, you know, between the bedding and the food, you can either make money or you can lose money. And the other thing that a lot of people don't consider into the equation is the labor. So if you actually hire someone to do all the work for the cleaning and all that stuff, you're actually, you know, probably not making any money because you're actually paying someone else. But if you do it yourself, then it's really economical. So that is pretty much it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.